It's that favorite time of the week where we get to learn the Parsha of the Kli Yakar on Parsha Vayishlach, Tashin Pei, some of the highlights that have practical lessons for us from the beautiful Parsha of the Kli Yakar. So let's begin with Vayishlach Yaakov Malachim Lefanav. Yaakov sends angels. Well, really it says Malachim, and it could either be interpreted angels, as Rashi and many of the commentators explain it, or, perhaps surprisingly for some people, the Ibn Ezra, and I believe the Rashbam, say they're actual messengers, that Yaakov sent messengers to Esav. Now, the Kli Yakar wants to defend the interpretation of Rashi, and he says, why did Rashi so convinced that it was really angels that Yaakov sent? Well, perhaps because the smichos of last week's Parsha ended Vayifku bo malach Elohim, that Yaakov met angels of God. So if that time it was clearly spiritual angelic beings, I don't know if they had 6 wings, but whatever they are, these spiritual beings that we call angels, then this time too, it's right next to the end of last week's Parsha, it must be real angels. He has another proof for why this must be real angels, because it says Vayishlach Yaakov Malachim Lefanav, before him. In other places, it doesn't say Lefanav, like Moshe just sent angels, Malachim, and not Lefanav, so that could be messengers. When it's Lefanav, that refers to angels. Like we have in Shmos Chaf Gimel, where God says, I'm going to send my Malacha Lefanav. Lefanav is a hint to angels. Why is Lefanav a hint to angels? Because it's like he has his own personal angels. Lefanav, truth is, I'm not sure why Lefanav should have the implication of angels, but that's the Kli Yakar's interpretation. As a derech agav, right, at the end of Yaakov's life, he says, Hamalach hagoeloti mikol ra, the angel who redeemed me from all evil. So it seems like Yaakov had his own personal angel that was always protecting him. And it's interesting that here in the army at Shalashudis, the rabbi came and he asked, why do we find Yaakov has more interactions with angels than anyone else? We don't find Avram and Yitzchak interacting to the same extent with angels. Yeah, here and there, had the Akedah, but Yaakov, all of his life is filled with angels. So I wanted to suggest 2 things. First of all, we know that Yaakov steiged. He was in the Shem and Aver Beis Medrash. He was always learning. He was the man of the tents. What was he steiging? Must have been steiging Gemara, right? And what does Gemara creates? It creates angels. As we know, the words Gemara stand for Gavriel, Michael, Raphael, and Uriel. So since he was always steiging Gemara, he got a lot of angels. You could say another pshat that Yaakov is associated with Shabbos, and that's on Shabbos we get the blessing of the angels and the Shalom Aleichem. Anyways, that's a little bit of an aside. Let's get back to the Kli Yakar. Second pshat of Kli Yakar, which I know you're going to really love, is when it says that Yaakov was very scared. Vayira Yaakov vayitzarlo. Yaakov is scared when he finds out about Esav. And he's very scared. And everyone wonders, why is Yaakov so scared? So Rashi suggests he's scared that he maybe had sinned, and therefore the schus of Esav will overcome his schuyos, and that's why he was scared. So, first of all, there's a tremendous lesson right there that Yaakov didn't. A real tzaddik is never sure, is not overconfident, never arrogant. He always feels like there's more to grow. Plus, he understood the power of just one mitzvah, and he knew that that Esav specialized in mitzvah of kibbud av. Never underestimate the power of even one mitzvah. But in any case, the Kli Yakar is not satisfied with Rashi's answer. The Kli Yakar says, wait, by Lavan, God promises Yaakov that he's going to protect him. So he originally promised him he would protect him by the ladder, by the sulam. And then he once again reiterates his promise to protect Yaakov. So how many sins could Yaakov Avinu have done between Lavan and meeting Esav. It was just a few days. He says this is Barbanel's question, and he thinks it's a great question, but he has an answer. He says, you know what Yaakov was scared about? He was scared that he was overdoing it on the flattery. The Gemara in Sota teaches that if you over-flatter a Rasha, in the end you're going to fall to him. And somehow, intuitively, Yaakov felt, yeah, it's one thing to negotiate with Esav, but to call him your master, and later we're going to see he's going to bow 7 times, that might have been too much. And that's what, at least subconsciously, that's what he was scared of. And it's a great teaching that we have to be able to treat people with respect, even people we disagree with, but it doesn't necessarily mean to be flattering them. Flattering, ultimately, people can see through it, and it doesn't serve us well. It's an interesting kash if Yaakov Avinu did the right thing, if maybe it's going to have a negative effect on later Jewish history by the bowing that he does to Esav. In any case, that's what the Kli Yakar says. Definitely a chiddush. Okay, let's do 2 more Kli Yakars for today. Yaakov Avinu says, Katonti mikol hachasedim. I've been made small by all the kindnesses. Yaakov made 2 promises, as Rashi explains, and he wants Hashem to fulfill his promises. Hashem promised by the latter, guard over me and bring me back to my land. And then later, he writes, Shuv el eret avotecha u'motecha ve'yemach. He says, let me go back to your land, Hashem says, and I will be with you. So, what's the nature of these 2 promises? The Kli Yakar explains the first promise is simply to guard over Yaakov, that nothing bad should happen to him. The second is veheyemach, and I will be with you. And that the things should be good. So Yaakov Avinu is saying, listen, God, you protected me. The opposite. Katonti mikol hachasadim. You've been kind to me. You've been good to me. Look, I started with nothing. And miraculously, the Kli Yakar goes on and on about how God made his flourish and the sheep, and made him so rich, and now he has children. So the good part you did, Hashem. So now just fulfill the second part, the promise to protect me from Esav. I thought that was interesting, and he adds something very practical to us, that it says, Imach. The promise is, Veitiva lach, doesn't say lach, rather itiva imach, with you. When you receive a gift, you have to do the work with the owner. We have to do everything we can do. When we do our efforts, then Hashem gives us the shef and the bracha. We don't rely upon a miracle. We don't sit back and expect the parnasa or expect the salvations and ward to come without doing our efforts. We do our efforts, and then Hashem fills our cup, which is the Indian of hishtadlis. Beautiful. Last Kli Yakar for today, as we like to do, we'll leave some Kli Yakars for next year, and you'll learn on your own. So Yaakov is having this fight, and he's left alone. Why was he left alone? So it says Rashi, he went back to get the pachim tonim. He went to get the small vessels. So usually this is interpreted as a positive thing, right? He wanted to recycle. He didn't want to waste, and that's why he was left alone. But the Kli Yakar says he's having this battle with the Yetzer Hara, with the Samael, the Malach, the evil forces. And why did he get caught up in this battle? Because he cared a little bit. He got too obsessed with money. He got so obsessed that he went back for this little pachim tanim. And when we get too in the world of money, it can blind us to the deeper spiritual purposes. So it's a little bit of a interesting quasi-critique, but obviously more important is what we take out of it is not to get obsessed with money. Ultimately, that fight with the Yetzer Hara goes ad alot, השחר, until the morning dawn. What does Alot HaShachar refer to? So the Kli Yakar says beautifully, Shemitoch mashma ad lo ad beklal, until Alot HaShachar, Kilot HaShachar aya ma'akev al yado shelo aya yechol lavi al yidei chashet elakah. The angel was trying to get Yaakov Avinu to stop believing in God. When he saw the sunrise, he knew that there was a creator of the world. Anyone who's really experienced a sunrise, they know that there is a God. Parsha the Bereshit al pasuk v'yadat hayom shavat levacha ki Hashem Elokim shemitoch yidiyas malach hagalgal. Through understanding how the sun moves, ayomi dahainu hashemesh yuchal maskil litbonon ki Hashem Elokim, we can understand that there is a God. And Avram also discovered God through studying the sun. And when it goes up on the Alot HaShachar, this is Avram's diamond that he taught the world. He would tell everyone about God. And he did this by telling everyone about the wonders of nature. And when Yaakov Avinu studied the wonders of nature, then he understood that there must be a God. And this is just realizing the complexity of the universe, the beauty of the universe. That's what actually gave him the strength of Emunah to withstand the Hirhurei Yetzer Hara. Okay, a lot more to be said. We'll call it for this week. Hope you enjoyed our Kli Yakar of the week, and hope you have a beautiful Shabbos Kodesh.